Can you hear me? Working all right. I got elected to stand up and say welcome to everybody. A few years ago, we got together in Utah and decided that it was time that we branched out a little bit as far as Mom's family with a family reunion. We've had a big Workman family reunion for years in Salt Lake, and that's kind of died out now. A lot of the old timers are gone, those that seem to hold it together. We've had a lemon reunion up here that's been held here, and sometimes in Salt Lake or Bountiful. And it seems like that got so big that we didn't know anybody anymore when we did get together. But we felt like we needed to kind of get together with our own family, with Mom and Dad. When you start counting up as to how many there are, I think Mom can count about 165 descendants at this time, and growing bigger almost by the day now. We've met down in Salt Lake for several years, or out of Salt Lake in the mountains. Scott and Venita have a nice cabin, and invited us there to have a family reunion, and we've really enjoyed it. Today, I think we had 80 of Mom's family here, just about half of them. Some have come from California and Idaho and all over to be here. So we're happy to have them and happy to be here to meet with you and to kind of share a tribute to Mom. Some of you know a little bit of the history of the Workman family. Some of you know maybe more than you should. But I'd like to take you back a few years in this valley. My dad was 1 year old when they were called as pioneers to come in and settle the Bighorn Basin. And I've listened to those tales of that first year on Sage Creek when they lived in a tent at 40 below zero, and the struggles that they had building a home here in the Bighorn Basin. A lot of history is tied up. There's been several books written now, and I'm sure all of you share some of that history. But the history is deeply tied in with our family, and our roots are here. We enjoy it, and we certainly enjoy the association and friendship of the people here. Dad was called to go on a mission to Mexico, and when he returned from his mission, a family named Duncan had moved into the basin. They lived just across the river. You walk across the railroad bridge about half a mile, you find where they lived. I'm sure Aunt Cassie and some of you could tell more of these stories than what I know about of the courtship and the romance. But one thing that I do recall hearing as a small boy is a fight that my Uncle Hiram got into. And that fight took place just about where the stake center is now. Somebody had the audacity to say that Martha Duncan was not the prettiest girl in Lowell. And Uncle Sam, Hiram, took him to task for it. And I've heard about that fight that he had because the girl that his older brother was dating, he felt was the prettiest girl in Lowell. Of course, we felt that way as a family for a long time. That we do have a beautiful mother, and she's only grown more beautiful with the years. We're happy to be here tonight to honor her, show her our respect and love for what she is and what she means to us as a family. I hope we can get through this evening. Each one of us have undertaken to say a few words, or try to say a few words and express some feelings. We're going to try to do it in order of seniority, so I get to turn this mic over to Venita to start with. We just don't think of him without thinking of him as being a brother, and we've asked him to give an opening prayer.
Our Father in heaven, this evening we're cashiers might be with us. We might have an enjoyable evening, and this program might go forth in a pleasing manner unto those participants and those of us that watch it. We're thankful, Heavenly Father, for our family and for the many blessings which it has brought into our lives, to the gospel, the things which it has taught us. We're thankful for this beautiful land in which we live and for the peace and plenty which we have. We turn the remainder of this time over to this program, and we ask these things with thanks and we humbly in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ.
I guess you know what my job was. I was the babysitter for this whole big family. And one of the things that we wanted to reminisce a little bit tonight about some of the things we remember that went on in our neighborhood as we grew up. And you can't hear me? Talk louder? If I can. But Aunt Anna and Aunt Chastity here reminds me of some of the things when we were growing up with their children. And it seemed to me like I remember that our place was sort of the gathering place for a lot of the activities that went on around the neighborhood. And Mom used to always instigate a lot of games and things for all of us to play. And some of the games we used to play that some of you young people probably never even heard of was called Guinea and Shinny and Kick the Can and Run Sheepy Run. And in those days, we didn't even have an automobile, and so our whole world circulated between school, church, and 2 or 3 blocks within the neighborhood in which we lived. And our mother was one who always tried to have things going for entertainment for us and to make life pleasant for us. And I can remember some of the holidays, and especially at Christmas, Mom used to get the whole neighborhood kids together and plan a program. And we'd put it on for the whole neighborhood, and she'd work so hard, and we'd have little treats, and we'd even sometimes have Santa Claus there. And I remember one time that we had fixed a stage, and we were all ready for our program, and the wind, somehow, somebody left the door open. The wind blew our stage curtains over against the little reflector stove that we had and caught them on fire and scorched all around there in the paper. And Mom's wallpaper that was on the wall. Mom felt so bad, she just felt like, I can't go ahead and hold this program with the house in this condition. But we all told her, oh, nobody will care. We're just here to have fun. And so we went ahead and had it, and had just as good a time as if everything had looked just spick and span and new. But seemed like Mom was always doing things for us kids, and so unselfish, and our thoughts and for our welfare always came first. Now, I can remember with them the birth of the children, starting with Truan. I wasn't old enough to remember Neil and Preston, but I can remember when Truan was born, and then after having these 3 brothers, I can remember how tickled I was one day when we came home from Sunday school and we had a little sister, Evelyn. I get too tired to talk about some of these things. Excuse me. I remember how she was like a living doll for me. And I learned to sew at a very early age, and I had so much fun making clothes for her, just like a lot of young girls do, playing with a doll. And I remember one time we were living over in Shell Creek at this particular time. Mom and Dad had moved over there, and they were gone someplace, and I was trying to make a dress for her, and I put her on my lap because I wanted to still sew, and I was babysitting her. And I don't know if any of you know the Thale Smith family from Grable, but at that time we lived close by them. And I was sewing away on this machine, and she stuck her little finger out there, and I run the sewing machine needle right through her finger. And so I had had to sit there and hold it to keep her from jerking it around until Preston ran through the field down to get Venita Smith to come back and help get that needle out of her finger. Now, Evelyn tells me there's some sort of naughty things that I did to her when she was growing up too, and she said she can remember one time when I was tending them, and I was supposed to try to get them to go to sleep. And we had a kind of a hole in the floor. We didn't have carpets or anything on our floor at that time, and the wooden floor, and there was a kind of a knot hole or a hole in the floor. And she said, I took a hair out of my head, put it down in that hole, and I said, now if you kids don't stay on that bed and go to sleep, that's going to turn into a snake, and it's going to come up out of that hole and get you. Well, I can remember another time that when Claudia was little, and I used to strap him right across my hip here and go around packing him around and doing whatever I had to do while I was tending him. And he's reminded me of that a few times. I think he could still do it. But when Butch and Claude and Dallin were small, by then I had some children, and they used to come and tend my children for me, and I can remember them being kind of scaring my kids, and I didn't like it too good. So I told Mom, I said, I don't like that very well, them scaring my kids. And she said, I've got one bit of sympathy for you. You used to scare mine all the time. Well, a little bit about my family. We're going to each try to tell you a little bit about us, too, what's happened to us in our life. And I want to pay tonight a tribute to another set of parents that I have here. This is my husband's parents. It's for the fine son that they raised that chased me till I caught him. And he's been a fine husband to me. And we have had 2 children, 2 boys, one of them which is here with us, Mike, and I have his wife, and there are 5 children here. And will you please stand, you kids, so they can see you? Scott, will you stand too, so and Grandma and Grandpa, so they can see who you are? We have another son who has 5 children also, of who we are equally proud of, but they weren't able to be with us here tonight. And we have made our home in Salt Lake City for the last 26 or so years, and we have a business down there which the whole family is involved in, and it has been good to us. Has made a good living for us, and we're appreciative of all the Lord's blessings unto our whole family. And one of the things about my brothers and sisters that I want to comment on too is that it seems like we are all very concerned about each other and for the joys that each family has, and also for the concern over the problems any of us have, and how willing we have all been to help each other in times of crisis. And express to them and to my mother how much I love them. And there's many things I could tell, but the rest of them wouldn't have anything to say if I told everything to them. So now I'd like to turn some time back to Neil, who was the second in our family.
I was always glad when my we had that 11 days that we shared being the oldest one in the family. We even found that it was fun to split the time between the 2 birthdays and have a birthday party together. I've got to make an apology here. When we got together in Salt Lake, there's 6 of us living down in that area now, and we try to get together at least once every 2 months for a dinner. And as you see, we ganged up on Evelyn and said, Evelyn, we're going to have this program, and it's your job to put it together and write a script for us. And we're finding that the script is sort of falling apart. So the outline, and we have a nice script that we are indebted to Evelyn for, but I guess some of us said that didn't quite sound like me. I want to come a little different. I want to thank Mom for one thing that she tried to do for me. And maybe some of the neighbors, you might have heard it, across the block and so on. The family thought that I needed music lessons. And Mom felt that there was something there that was worth striving for. Even though when I got into junior high, and we had Mrs. Phelan for a music teacher. I don't suppose anybody here would remember Mrs. Phelan. But she stopped the class. She said, "Who's that singing way down low and off key?" Of course, everybody else in the class jumped up and pointed their finger and hollered, "Neil." I went home and told Mom about it, how cruel they were to me at school. So Mom used to go down to Krell. We had a cow down the backyard. Mom would take her harmonica down with me when I'd go down to milk. And night after night, she would blow the note on the harmonica and then tell me, "Now try that. Now just a little higher. Just try this a little higher." And Mom had tremendous patience. But I always felt that she gave up too soon. That there might have been something there if she'd have just stayed with it a little longer, Mom. Should have given up. But she gave up on me too, on that. I'd like to tell you another incident that meant a lot to me in my association with my mother. When I went overseas, I was kind of a cocky young man. All of us were. Went in the Marines because Dad had been in the Marines, and I wanted to be the same place Dad had been in the Marines. I was the only one from Lovell, in fact, the only one from the state of Wyoming that went into the outfit at that time when I went in. I was kind of lonesome and alone. There's lots of things that you do, you're away from home, that remind you of home, things that you're close to. But I got into trouble. I lost a leg. I got shot. You know, the thing that worried me more than anything else was how I was going to tell my mother. How do you tell your mother something like that? I wrote her letters, tear them up, try again to explain to her that I had lost a leg. I finally mailed a letter, but she didn't get that one. Mailed a second one. She didn't get that one until after she had received the third letter that I had mailed to her. And in that third letter, I was telling her about the Royal Stump Club that we had organized as a group of amputees in an island in the South Pacific. So I guess that came as a shock to her because she didn't know what had happened. She hadn't received the first two letters. But in the next day or two, she received those two letters, and she knew what had happened. And I remember the letter that she wrote back to me. The first paragraph of the letter told me how lucky I was. You see, Smith Shumway had just had his problems. She told me that Smith was blind in both eyes and crippled in all four limbs. Had bullet wounds in his chest. Had gone through some 35 operations. That's the way my mother viewed this. How lucky you are. And I recall her telling me later, she was talking about the family. She told me she didn't like war, and she hated to see her boys called to go to war. But she said, "Son, I have 6 boys, and I would rather have all of them go into the service if their country called them, and rather see all 6 of them killed in the service of their country than to have one son who would refuse to go and fight for their country when called." That's the kind of patriotism that Mom has. have been a very deep love for her country, a deep love for her family, appreciation for the things that she has had. She hasn't had a lot of things, but she has greatly appreciated those things that she has. Lots of things that I would like to reminisce with you tonight, but our time is short. Besides that, I get the last word if the others leave out anything. I'd like to turn a little time over now to my little brother Preston.
Now, at my age now, I feel like I'm still a young man. But at that time, my folks were about my age. And I thought they was old and need somebody to kind of keep an eye on them. So I was doubly tickled. Not only to be able to move back, have a job in my own home community, but to also have a wife that was a good companion to me who also had parents living right in the same area. And we thought how wonderful and lucky we are to be able to come back and live in the proximity of our parents and kind of keep an eye on them and be able to associate with them. I have gone through the experience of seeing my mother spend almost a year watching my father die of cancer, and she never called him. She could go day after day at his bedside to lend him encouragement. At this time, I would like to introduce you to my lovely family. This is my wife, Greta. We've been married, well, at least over 30 years. I have two lovely daughters and their families, and they are all here with us tonight. I have a wonderful son-in-law, Norman Winters, and my daughter, Marla.
Today to the hill, Maggie, to watch the scene below. The creek and the creaking old mill, Maggie, are as we used to long, long ago. The hydrants and wells for brooks, walking and dripping and splashing all along.
a hand with 8 small children tucked in my skirt. They played, cried, loved, sighed. 2 little girls and their 6 brothers. And I was happy, for I was a mother. They grew in little sunshine, were children in storms. They learned, shared, lived, cared. These 2 little girls and their 6 brothers, and I was proud. For I was a mother.
I want water.
The girls became women, and men grew from the boys.
Mommy, I want water.
They played, cried, loved, sighed, learned, shared, lived, cared, worked, served, and prayed in a world of their own. And I'm satisfied because I'm their mother.
Thank you, Mom.
Venita has some pictures she'd like to